Well, hey there, and welcome to my channel. I'm Crafty Kathy, the owner and creator of Kids Vintage Farmhouse in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I am so happy and thankful that you stopped in to craft and spend a little time with me today. I made some absolutely gorgeous DIY decor from Dollar Tree pool noodles. You won't believe your eyes, and I don't want you to wait another minute, so let's get into it. For our first DIY, we're only going to need one pool noodle. Now you can make this at any length you want. The pool noodles by themselves are around 53 inches, but I decided to cut this one down at 35. I'm actually going to write 35 inches on the side in case you want to go back and recreate this. It'll be really easy to find. Now you're going to need some really good strong zip ties. I think they're also called cable ties. I just call them zip ties. I didn't think that I had some longer ones, so here's a little hack. You can put two of these together to create one longer zip tie. Now you're going to make this in the shape of almost like a candy cane. And the part that you're going to leave over there by itself is all going to be your preference. You'll see in just a moment. I left mine at 7 inches from where the zip tie is, and I wrote that down just for reference. The next step is to take some garland. I prefer to do this with garland because I just think it's easier. You can actually do this with any type of like leaves, flowers that look like leaves, any type of florals that look that way. But I think it's easier with garlands. I believe I got this garland at the Dollar General years ago, and see how tiny my zip ties were? They wouldn't even hardly go around. These are the ones from the Dollar Tree, but they do come in different sizes. Just the bigger and thicker they are, of course, you get less in the pack. Now, what we're going to do is take our garland, and you are going to put this around the side, what I would call the side. You see down at the bottom, I started it in the front, and then I just kind of went over around, maybe you would call it the edges, I don't know, but it's the side of the pool noodle. And every few inches, you're just going to grab a zip tie, and you're going to tie it real good and tight. That way it's not going to move, and it's going to stay exactly where you put it down at. Make sure that when you go around the bend at the top that you're going to put a zip tie before you go around that bend and right when you get around that bend, because if you don't, it will slide off of there. And so, yeah, I just stuck another zip tie here. And then I'm going to put a couple more down the side. And it doesn't matter how many of these you use however many makes you feel like this is secure and it's not going anywhere. And you do want to pull it. You don't want to pull it so tight that it makes your pool noodle look funny, but you do want to get it good and snug so that that garland's not going to come off of there. But I just went down through here, and I think I put maybe about, guesstimating 6 or 7. And then what you're going to do with that excess garland, you can either spin it around and run it right back up that pool noodle, but I didn't find that that would be necessary. What I did after I put my last zip tie, and what I do here is bring it from where I had it at the side back around to the front. You start in the front and you end in the front, and just cut off that excess. And this is about what you're going to have whenever you are finished getting your zip ties on and your garland. I don't know how I missed this, but this one wasn't even hooked down. I think I cut the piece off just a second ago that I actually had zip tied down. So I'm just going to go back and put another one on there. We definitely don't want to leave that loose. Make sure you cut off all the backs of them. And don't worry, this little bit of garland is totally sufficient. You'll see in just a moment. The next thing we want to do is start filling this in. In case you're wondering, we're making a huge swag for the front door. And what I'm going to do here is take some 10-inch mesh. You can use any type of mesh. It doesn't matter what kind you've got. It can even be the Dollar Tree kind. And I measure out 10 inches, and it does not have to be perfect by any means. I cut this, gapped it. It looked crazy, but in the end, it does not matter whatsoever. It looks great. So as long as you've got somewhere around 10 inches, it's going to look fine. I ended up having to swap my scissors, first of all, because these were not cutting this deco mesh. This type is the one that, to me, feels like a garbage bag, like a plastic garbage bag, and it's so hard to cut unless you have some really good scissors. So I swapped up my scissors, and I ended up cutting this, what I had left on this roll. I think I ended up cutting probably maybe about 8 pieces, and they're all around 10 inches each. Don't get caught up on it having to be perfect, a perfect line, nothing of the sort. There is nothing hard about this DIY. Even a beginner can do it, and you don't have to have your measurements exactly perfect. You may even find that you want the base, your pool noodle, to be a little bit different of a size than what I've got. And it's okay. It's going on your front door, so whatever you want. I'm just here for inspiration to kind of give you the measurements of how I do mine. Okay, so I went ahead and cut, like I said, approximately 8 pieces of this. And now we're going to move on to the red. You'll notice that I've got this red. I picked this up on clearance from Christmas, and it doesn't matter. Mine is going to be a 4th of July wreath. Remember, whatever type of deco mesh and decorations you have, you can do any style wreath you want. It can be a summer wreath. It can be whatever. But I just had kind of like red, white, and blue deco mesh, so I thought, because it's right before the 4th, let's go ahead and make a wreath for the front door. Now, I don't like dealing with this 20-inch deco mesh because to me, it sticks to everything, and it's too long for me to want to deal with. So what I did was just kind of eyeballed it, and I cut it right down the middle. That way I'm going to turn it into 10-inch mesh. You see what I'm saying? I cut a really long piece, and I ended up cutting approximately 8 to 10 of those that were the same size as before. Because remember, I cut it down into 10 inches by cutting it in half here. And then I cut those down and somewhere around 10 inches each piece. And I came out with the exact same as I did on the blue and white. I really like this sparkly red. And since I had so much of it, I made just a couple more than I did of the blue and white. Now here is where this swag is going to start to get really full. What I do is I take one of my pieces, I'm going to take the blue and white, and I'm going to just start rolling it in from the sides. It doesn't have to be specific. And then just kind of squeezing it together there in the middle. See, making almost like a little makeshift bow. And remember, these curls that we're making, they pretty much want to curl that way themselves, so let them just do what they want to do and don't get caught up on it having to be perfect. Now, the easiest way to put these in my opinion, is to use these floral pins. I get these at Hobby Lobby. I also get them off of Amazon. I'll leave the link down below in case you need to get some. Long tacks is kind of what they look like. You just pop them down into that foam, and you don't have to worry with all of the hubbub of, doing a floral wire and all that kind of thing. To me, they're the easiest. If you have floral wire and that's all you have, just use what you've got. But these make it so much easier, and I just wanted to let you know. But see, they just want to curl in, and you just kind of pinch them together in the middle. I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to pop my little floral pin right in there, and it's going to pop up on its own because it's beautiful deco mesh. Now, the one that's the blue and white, it's a different feeling. I told you it feels like a plastic garbage bag, so it doesn't pop up and look as pretty as that red, that sparkly red. It's just a lighter material, and so it's fluffier, and to me it looks better, and that's one of the reasons why I cut more. Plus, I didn't have any more of the blue and white. But you just go around anywhere where you see these big gaps and that ugly green pool noodle is shining, you know. You don't want anybody to be like, oh my goodness, she's made that with a pool noodle. When this is done, people are going to look at it and be like, oh my goodness, you are a master. Like, what did you do? I mean, it literally is so beautiful. I can't wait for you to see the end product. But yeah, you just go through, and if you don't get your thing on right like I just did, you can pull it right back up and redo it. Pop that floral pin right back down in there, and that floral pin's going to hold it still, and you're putting it in the foam so it's not going to go anywhere. And look how beautiful this is. I ended up using all of the blue ones that I had and most of the red ones. I think I maybe ended up having 1 or 2 red ones left. Now, there's different ways that you can curl your deco mesh. If you want to just curl it up into one big curl, you can do that. But I would advise you, whichever way you start off, that's how you need to make the whole thing look, because it'll look more cohesive if you do it that way. You don't want to start off rolling the sides in like I did and then be like, okay, this is aggravating, and then just start rolling it up. You're not going to tell a huge bit of difference, but you'll know the difference. You know what I'm saying? And if you're like me, whenever you're doing some type of a DIY, if I know that I cut a corner or did something, it will drive me nuts. I will just sit there and wear myself out until I go back and change it, no matter how aggravating it is. So that's exactly what I did. I went all the way around my wreath, and I'm going to add the rest of this deco mesh. If I could give you any tips, I would say if you're going to do one of your curls kind of sideways, do the next one that's the opposite color up and down. I try to do mine different so it looks like it's, you know, it just makes it more full. Do one sideways, do one up and down. It just looks better. And do the different colors, like try to do blue and white, red, blue and white, red. Unless you get to the end and all you have is red. And then you just kind of pop it in wherever you have a place. I found that of making this type of wreath, this is what takes the longest, is just putting all these little pieces on to fill it out. But now we get to the fun part, the florals. I wanted white because I had the blue and white and the red. I just thought mostly white would look good. I grabbed every white flower I had, and I don't like to have all the same type of flower. I had some of these long stems, whatever these are, and they came from Dollar Tree. I had some white roses, and I even had a Lone Ranger there that fell in the middle and of my wreath there, and it looks like a, I don't know what that is, maybe a hydrangea, I don't know what that is, but it's one Lone Ranger piece. But this is what I did. I used those floral pins to tack these down too, because these were big old long pieces. I just basically laid it where I wanted it on the sides. I tacked it down in a few places, and then I worried about fluffing it up. And if there was a little bit extra left down at the bottom, like, you know, just the stem is what I mean, I cut it off. It does not matter. You don't want that to show. So anything that you don't want to show, just cut it off. Like if you get it on there and you're like, I don't really like these leaves, the look of these leaves, well, cut them off. It doesn't matter. See, I just laid these big long ones down. I'm going to show you once again, just wherever I wanted them. I just kind of nestled them in there. And then I put a few of the little floral pins in there just to hold it up. And this one is the one that had the really long stem on it. And you'll see in just a moment, I'm going to cut that off. And at this point, try not to worry about the whole look of things, because when you're done and you fluff it out, everything's going to look perfect. It's going to cover any spots up that you want covered up. But you see, I just cut that stem off and just kept going. I had 3 of these long white ones, these long white florals. I put one on each side and one smack dab in the middle, just so that it would look cohesive. The way that I like to put any of my floral stuff on is if I do it on the right side, I'm going to do that same thing on the left side. If I do something up top, I'm going to do that same thing down on the bottom. I just try to match up the sides. Now, these are Dollar Tree roses, hydrangeas. And like I said, remember, the different types of flowers, it does not matter. I actually like it. That's my personal preference, is for me to have a couple of different types of flowers, because it brings a little bit of like curiosity, or like it kind of pulls your eye in certain directions, you know. And the way that I put these roses on, I think I had maybe about 4 or 5 that I cut off there. And I'm looking for areas that look bare, and that's exactly where they went. Anywhere where I saw a spot where you could either see the pool noodle from the front, or it kind of looked bare and needed some flowers, that's where I would add it at. And every once in a while, I will stop and kind of fluff everything up with my fingers and just kind of step back and look at it and say, okay, what do we need? I think that's a very important step, is to step back and look at your piece several times when you're adding florals and just ask yourself, okay, where do I need something at, or what do I need to do next? I got a couple of these sparkly looking feathery ordeals from Temu. There was 6 of them. I used 3 of them in a wreath that I did a week or 2 ago, and I saw them sitting there and they absolutely matched my wreath, and I was like, wow, I'm going to use these for some filler. So I just found a couple of areas. I have 3 of them. I want one in the middle and one on each side. I do not know why, for the life of me, I didn't just use those floral pins and pop it around these, but I didn't. I used a zip tie, and it was probably actually better that I did use the zip tie, because of the feathers were so light. If I put the floral pins up through there, it may have not let it kind of free flow, and do its thing. But I did put the zip tie around it and just kind of fluffed it up and sat back and looked at it and said, yes, this looks really good. And you can add whatever embellishments you want to your wreath. If it's a summer wreath, you can add flip-flops or sunglasses, or, whatever, So here, like I said, I'm just going through, adding these pieces, and I felt that the stem of these was too long. It was just too much excess, and I didn't need it. So I went through with each of these pieces and cut that little stem off at the bottom. And at first, I thought I just had 2 of them, and I thought it would look so much better if I could just stick something in the middle. And it was sitting right there beside me. I just didn't realize I had it. So after I cut off the stems, I found that other piece, and I stuck it right up in the middle. I put it a little bit higher than the other 2, just so that it would be easier to see, or it would kind of bring your eye to different levels. To me, that's important. I like something kind of up at the top of my swag and something down a little bit lower, because it's like it overwhelms your eye, and all you can see is the beauty of this swag. I didn't plan to add any other colors of flowers besides the white, but when I stepped back and looked, I still had some empty spots, and I had some red flowers, and I thought, well, we just need to go ahead and add these red, because it will bring something more to this piece. So that's what I did. I cut all my pieces, and just like before, I added these anywhere where I would see an open place, or a place that looked like it needed something, like it maybe needed a pop of red, or it just needed a little bit of contrast, because you got this like little cluster of white flowers. So I would pop a red one right in the middle of them. I wanted something else on my swag, so I grabbed one of these little you're a grand old flag little signs. It came from Dollar Tree. I cut the little pieces off at the top. It's like a little hanger. I cut those off, and I'm just going to use my little push pins or the floral pins to pop it right through. And then I'm going to cover up the areas where those little holes are by just grabbing the different florals. You saw me grab those stars and grab the different mesh ribbon and just kind of cover it up where you can't see all that. I had a runaway flower that I pulled off because I was trying to aggressively fluff, and so I had to put it back together. But I just kind of go through. It's kind of hard to explain how I process to do these, but I just go through anywhere where I am looking and I feel that it needs something. It might be a color. It might, you just might need to fill a spot in. But I just kind of go through, and here at the end process, I'll go through and fluff it and look and see if it needs anything. And I found that my process is to always add like a small tag or one of these little things like this from the Dollar Tree or Dollar General. And I added one of the little tiny flags from the Dollar Tree at the top. DIY number 2 is equally as gorgeous, and it's easy also. I'm just going to use one pool noodle, and I grabbed this sign. I got this at Dollar General when it was 90% off, so I paid 80 cents for it. And just keep in mind, this is just for inspiration. You may have some other type of sign, like say for instance, the one from the Dollar Tree, one like this, and you can be like, oh yeah, I can make this DIY work. If you like this DIY, it's very simple to substitute what I have here. By all means, you can use this sign up and down, but I'm going to use mine as a horizontal from side to side. And I just kind of laid out my pool noodle and made a little indentation from side to side where I would need to cut. And I just cut it in half. And don't worry if it kind of looks jaggedy or whatever, you're never going to know the difference. And then I'm going to take that pool noodle that I have here and I'm going to cut it in half. And that's what I like about all these DIYs that I'm showing you today. They're really beautiful, but they're super easy. You don't have to have exact measurements. And if you don't cut your pool noodle like perfectly right, it's still going to look beautiful. You're never going to notice the difference. I was looking for that little pool noodle knife that I got from Dollar Tree. Couldn't find it, so we're back with the box cutter. And I just cut it down in the middle. When I cut my pool noodle in half, it wasn't exactly in half because I just kind of chopped it up, if you can tell by looking. I just took the bigger half of the pool noodle, the one that had, the most left on it, and I would lay down the end of this Mod Podge, or you can use those little peat pots from the Dollar Tree, just something that's rounded. And I just eyeballed where I wanted to make my cuts at. I drew a little circle around this, and what I'm going to do is just cut this out. I'm going to make these look like logs and put some of those little peat pots from the Dollar Tree down inside them. And by no means were any of my cuts perfect, and like I said, I just eyeballed it. That's the beauty of this DIY. You can be kind of messy and you don't have to be precise, and it's going to turn out beautiful. I would just, after I cut it out, I would just lay it back up on my board and kind of eyeball it and see if it's where I wanted it to be. I tried to make my cuts as even, like make each one of them about the same size the best I could, but I didn't sweat it. I never do, because to me, the little imperfections is what makes your DIY more interesting and gives it more character. So like I said, I went through, cut these out, laid them up there, and I would lay my little peat pots down inside it to see if it was where I wanted it to be before I moved on to the next step. If it's not where you want it yet, you just cut a little bit more out. And guys, if you're enjoying this so far, would you please give me a big thumbs up, that's the like button, and leave me a comment, even if it's just like a heart emoji. Those things really help out my channel here on YouTube. And subscribe. You know I want you to be a part of our family. We love to chat and craft and have a good time together. And our family here that we have built is amazing. So here I've got the little peat pots, and what I'm going to do to these is cut them in half. And like everything else, we're eyeballing it. We don't have to have it exactly perfect. We're going to need 4 of them because I cut out 4 little pieces up there, 4 little holes. And so I just cut 2 of them down the middle because we're using the halves. And by the way, look up there and see that hack job that I did when I cut those holes out. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be perfect, but wait till you see the way it turns out. It's going to be so beautiful. And by the way, if this is the first time that you've ever been to my channel, welcome. I am so thankful that you're here. And guys, I am so thankful for all of y'all originals that have been here and watch all of my videos. I love all of y'all so much. So here I'm just doing another dry run to make sure it's where I want it to be. You're going to find the placement of where you want your log to be, and I want mine down at the very bottom, and I'm going to put this masking tape all around it, and you'll see why in just a moment. I'm going to put it right underneath it. I'm going to put it on the sides, and then I'm also going to take another long piece, and I'm going to put it right across the top of it. We're about to turn this into a log, and I don't want any of the stuff that we're going to use to get on anything else except for our pool noodle, and that's why we're doing this. But before I put my piece of masking tape across the top, I'm just taking my hot glue gun. I'm going to put it all over my pool noodle. I didn't go crazy with it, but I put a good amount so that it wouldn't move. You just put it on the parts where it's going to stick. And I placed it down, and you just hold on to it there for a second. It don't take it but a moment to stick, and get all those spider webs out of those holes. And then we're simply going to put our last piece of masking tape across the top. And excuse my head, I really had to get down and close to make sure that I was getting it right on the top of that pool noodle. Now don't worry about the little areas where you're going to put the little peat pots, because those will not be seen at all. Just make sure you get it good and across the top, the sides and the bottom. The next thing that we're going to do is grab some Dollar Tree spackling. The reason why I use this is because it's what I had on hand. You can also use that Crayola Model Magic from Dollar Tree. You can use clay. I saw Wendy from White Sparrow Living use mastic to make logs like this. And that's actually where I originally got the idea. She did something similar to this one. So what I did to make my spackling, what I needed it to be, was add a little bit of water and use this little popsicle stick to stir it around. But I felt that it was going to be chalky and kind of fall apart really easily. So I got the bright idea to add a little bit of Mod Podge for some stick. This is what we do. We're DIYers. If we don't have the necessary tools to make this DIY, we're going to DIY something that'll work. You know what I'm saying? And this worked excellent. But I feel that the Mod Podge gave it the stick that it needed, and the spackling, it was just perfect the way it worked out. To apply it, I didn't have any gloves, so I made a DIY glove with a baggie. I just grabbed some of it on my hands and went to town. All I'm doing is kind of just smearing it all over this so we can make it look like a log. And I found that it was a little difficult to use the baggie because I didn't have my fingers free to do what I wanted them to do. But I had some clay tools, and I think that these clay tools actually came from the Dollar Tree that I have, and it just made it so much easier. It literally spread on like cake icing, and that's kind of what you want it to look like, to make it look like a real believable log. Just remember, you have to wait for this stuff to dry, so you don't want to pack it on too thick, just enough to cover it. This is the little clay tool that I had remembered that I had, and I'm telling you guys, it was like day and night. It just made it so much easier to put on. And like I said, I didn't do mine. This is the first time I've ever done this, so I just kind of winged my way through it. I knew that it didn't need to be too thick, but I wanted to cover up the green, and I just wanted to give it enough, and I kind of applied it like cake icing, because in my mind, that is what a log looks like if you cut it in half. So I went all the way down through here and covered it up. I made sure to cover the little areas where it swoops down there where we made our cutout, but you don't have to do it inside those areas. Like, what I mean by inside is like that where you can see that black chalkboard, in the cutout portion. Because remember, our peat pots are going to sit down on there. Once I got it all spread on there, there was a couple places I felt that it was best for me just to use my finger just to get it on there exactly where I wanted it. And then I am going to show you guys what my log looks like when I finish this process. And then I set it to the side for roughly about 4 to 5 hours so that it could harden up. I also took some of that spray adhesive and sprayed it on my log when I was finished with that process, when it had dried. That way, my spackling is not going to fall off and go anywhere that I don't want it to go. So here we are about 4 hours after I left it alone and let it dry. It was not 100% dry, but it was probably about 95% of the way dry. I just was really careful. I have this sped up, but I went really slowly, especially in those areas there where it's going to be touching where the little peat pots will go. Now, I couldn't help it. A little bit of the spackling did chip off in certain places, but it was no big deal. It didn't make any difference whatsoever. And I believe that it really helped me out by putting that spray on there, that adhesive spray. And if you don't have adhesive spray, you can just use hairspray, like an aerosol hairspray. Squirt it on there, and it will give it a nice good hold. Now, I know my log is already white, but we need to put some white on this just to cover it up to give it a more believable look. I'm going to use the color by DIY Paint called Beadboard. It's an off-white color. It's just not so bright. It is white, but it's not so bright. I went ahead and went over all of the log on the tops and the sides, everywhere that needed to be covered. Now, mind you, I was being very careful when I painted that too. I just used an old chippy brush, and I didn't push down on it. I just kind of lightly went over it because I didn't want to disturb that spackling. And then you see me painting the inside of my plaque. I wanted the outer portions to stay that beautiful wood color, but the inside, I gave it 2 coats of the beadboard. And on the log part, I just went over it the one time, and if there were parts that needed to be covered a little bit better, that's what I did. Perfection is not needed in this DIY. So when all my paint was dry, I'm going to take the last little area of the tape off, and once again, I do have it sped up a little bit, but I was super, super careful on this part, and it just came off perfectly. It came off exactly like I expected it to. I took some of the Waverly Antique Wax and I just poured it out on a piece of parchment paper so I could get to it easily because my brush was kind of thick. And I've always said, that my antique wax is probably 25% wax, and the other 75% is water. I like mine to be really watered down. That way it's not such a dark brown. And when I do it this way, I find that most of the time I don't even have to wipe it back with a baby wipe. I just went over it and I went all the way around my frame here and just gave it one quick little coat of my Waverly Antique Wax. Now that I've got the frame portion painted to my liking, I'm going to show you how I did the log. Now, I still kept some of that Waverly Antique Wax poured out on the top, but I took a totally different brush, and it's also just a chippy brush. I prefer a chippy brush that's kind of flared out like this one, that is well used. And I very lightly went over it. You see, I'm not going crazy with it. I started off slow, and I also added some of this Dixie Belle Tobacco Road. It is a darker brown, and the reason why I did that is I was thinking in my mind, if I use that lighter Waverly Antique Wax and the darker color, which is the Tobacco Road, I'm going to get a more realistic look on a log. Because a log isn't just one color of brown, it's several different colors. So basically what I did was kind of go back and forth. I went over it with the Tobacco Road and the Waverly Antique Wax, and I would let it dry in between coats so that I wouldn't mix the two and just kind of muddy it up. Then I grabbed a more flat brush and I started going down in the crevices, and I noticed that in some places it was better if I kind of dabbed it on. That way it would give it a better brown coverage. But I really liked the way it looked when I just kind of dry brushed it on also. And between each layer, I made sure to go ahead and give it a good dry. And when I was finally happy with the way that my log looked, I just stopped and let it totally dry. I'm going to grab this word Create. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby a long time ago. It's normally $1.49, but I get it when it's like 75 cents when it's half off. And I'm going to use the color called Little Black Dress. It's a beautiful DIY paint color. And by the way, if you want to try out any of the DIY paint or the IOD, the pentart products, any of the higher end products that you see me use on my channel, I get those from Lori over at www.miltonsdaughter.com, and I'll leave all that information down below so that she's easy to find. And what I did was just go over very like nonchalant, and I wasn't trying to be careful, and I just gave this a quick color of that beautiful black. The next thing that I did was grab those 4 little half peat pots that I have, and I used the leftover beadboard that was already in one of my paint brushes and just did like a dry brush over it. This is just a personal preference. I just like the way it looks. You can totally omit that step if you want to. It's just the way I like it. Then I took that brush that I had painted that black word Create with, and I thought, I wonder what it would look like if I just very lightly kind of tapped that log here and there with the black, and I really liked that look. And after I did that, I went over it with a little bit of white. I did it like a dry brushing, and I just did it with an old chippy brush. Well, I dried it first. Definitely do that or you're going to end up with a gray color. And then after it was dry, I went over it with a dry brush and just put a little bit of white back into it, and it makes it look like a believable log, or at least it does to me. The next thing that I did was just grab my little peat pot halves, put a little bit of hot glue on them, and I set them right down inside the little scoops. And I just placed them exactly where I wanted them to go. And if you notice, they aren't all the exact same size. Like one of them is a little bit taller than the others, but that's okay because it adds to the beauty of it, if you ask me. I put a little hot glue on the word Create and popped it on there. Then finally, to style this piece, I am going to take some flowers that I got off of Temu. I really do like the Temu flowers. These are kind of peachy and beigey kind of color at the same time. It came in a bouquet, and I believe it was under peony, I believe. I get a lot of flowers from Temu, and I really like them. So I just placed those where I wanted them. And then I grabbed one of those hangers that I pick up off of Amazon. They're the easiest hangers in the world to put on. And it doesn't matter if you get them on crooked, your picture still comes out perfect. But you literally just stick it on the back, and it's got the two little nail thingies in the back. And I pop these on with the cutters. And then to finish this piece off, I grabbed that brush that had that little bit of black in it, and I just kind of dry brushed it around the frame. I just like that look. It's a personal preference, and I hope you like this one. I think it turned out gorgeous.
She thinks I'm a little lazy. I think she's a little crazy. We like summer and we like spring, watching wrestling in the ring. She ain't shy, she speaks her mind, tough as nails and smooth as wine. We burn hot as kerosene, baby, we got our own thing. She ain't skinny and I ain't tall, and that don't bother us at all. I run naked through the yard, she flash every police car, drinking wine and getting tired, shooting out the damn street lights. How does she put up with me? Baby,
On the last DIY of the day, I'm going to use this giant fish bowl that I got in Florida last week for $2.99. And what I'm going to do is use some of this glue away. This stuff is amazing. It's just like glue gone, and it got that sticker residue right off of that. We're going to take one pool noodle. That's all we're going to need for this. And I took a box cutter, and I'm going to cut like little slits all in my pool noodle. Now, this isn't the whole pool noodle. What I did was measure it around my fish bowl to the size that I needed. And when I got that measurement, I cut it off. And then I'm making slits all around it. That's just a little hack that will make it bend easier. You know these things don't want to bend so easy, but if you make little slits in them, you are never going to see it either, by the way. But it will make it bend easier. So that's exactly what I did. I put some hot glue on the end, and I put a good amount of hot glue on there. I held it together long enough for it to hold, or just about hold, and I held it with one hand, and I grabbed that giant masking tape that I have and went around that area about 4 times. I don't exactly remember where I got this masking tape at, but it's really good. I believe it's that brand that has the duck on it. I can't think of it. It's really, really good masking tape. Then after that, I just set my fish bowl down inside of it to make sure that it fit. I have another garland, and I know that I got this one at Dollar General on clearance for $5. And I'm just going to wrap it around the outside once again like I did the first DIY. I used my little floral pins to go around it. Then I grabbed this eucalyptus that I get from Walmart. I had a couple little sprigs left on here, and I cut them off. Now, when I'm doing any kind of floral project, I usually like to do a couple different styles of greenery because I find that it just adds something. It's really pretty. And it doesn't matter that these stick up a little bit, and you'll see why in just a minute. So I went all the way around, just wherever it needed it, and stuck one of the little sprigs of eucalyptus. Then I grabbed some of the lamb's ear that I get from Walmart, and I cut it down kind of low because I didn't want it to stick up too much. I think I ended up having 4 pieces of the lamb's ear, and I just put them wherever I felt like it needed. I went to go pick up a beach ball that flew out of our pool, and it ended up in that big field down behind our house, and I found the sweetest blackberries, and oh my goodness, I was sitting here just snacking on them the whole time I was doing this DIY. I have some gorgeous, gorgeous flowers that I got off of Amazon back years ago. And there's only 3 big ones, but that's no problem. We make it work. We're DIYers. So I just went around and placed them in an area to where to the eye it looked like it was even enough. I just kind of eyeball everything in case you haven't noticed. I'm not a measure and perfect kind of gal. I also have some hydrangeas, some that are kind of a creamy color and some that are a little bit more white. I honestly don't know where these came from. I've just had them over the years, and I just kind of placed them anywhere where I felt like they would need to go. I actually placed 2 in what would be the front and 1 toward the back to cover up that blue masking tape. And then I've got these small little twiggy sprigs that I got from Dollar Tree. They're very small and not big at all, and I just went around and added those wherever I felt that they would look good. Then we've got these smaller pieces that the Dollar Tree calls just greenery, and they are very small. I just cut them down and did the same thing. I just kind of placed them wherever I saw an open hole, but I tried to make it to where it was evened out. You know what I mean? Like if I put one in the front, I would try to put one in the back, and if one went on one side, I would put another on the other side. And then my favorite part, I got these cattails from the Dollar Tree. Now, a lot of people call these foxtails, but here in the South, we call them cattails. I'm not going to debate over what the things are really called. I don't care, but they're beautiful, aren't they? Now, these come out in the fall at Dollar Tree, but I really picked up a bunch of these last fall because I loved the color of them. So I just cut these down with those little brown sprigs that come out of them and all. And I just popped them down where I thought that they would look good. And I still try to keep that same formation that I always do. If one goes in the front, I put one in the back. If it goes on a side, I put it on the other side. And we're getting full really quick. The next thing that I added were these gorgeous, like celery colored greenery, and it's glittery. It came out at Hobby Lobby, and I got it after Christmas a few years ago, and it looks good for all seasons, and that glitter does not come off. It's like really thick and chunky. Now here, I couldn't find any more greenery. I just had this piece that almost looked like a garland, and I didn't really need much. So what I did was just cut off one little piece of it because too much of that green pool noodle was showing. Now, if you're going to do some kind of floral arrangements with the pool noodles, I suggest that you get green because it kind of blends in best. And remember, do not try to spray paint these pool noodles unless you paint them with regular paint first, because they're made of foam, and as soon as you hit it with that spray paint, it's going to just evaporate, and then you've lost your money totally. So here I just went all the way around. These are kind of long pieces. I would stick them into the pool noodle and then use my little floral pins to attach them so it would look good and just fill in that inner portion where it needed something. Now look how beautiful this is becoming. At this point, if you had such a hankering for it, you could grab some of that mesh like we used earlier just to fill in spots, but I didn't think it needed it. So what I do is just take my fish bowl again, set it in the middle, and make sure that it's going to look the way that I want it to. Then I grabbed some of those Dollar Tree gems, and I'm going to stick my lighted candle in there first and then my gems, because if I didn't, that candle just kept sitting on top of them and it was all kabobbled looking. But I like the battery operated candles. I get mine off of Amazon, and I do leave those in the link down below in case you want some. They're the prettiest battery operated candles. They're a little pricey, but to me they're well worth it because I use them all year. The last thing that I did was grab some of this brown because I felt that it stuck out too much with the cattails and just kind of gave it a haircut. I didn't want it to all be the same length because that would look funny, so I just cut like a few pieces smaller and a few pieces a little bit longer. Now, while I'm cutting that last little bit off, I wanted to announce the winner of last week's transfer, and it's going to Melinda Elizabeth. I'm going to leave my email down below. It's kathycheryl77@gmail.com. Just send me an email and I'll verify that it's you, Melinda, and I will be sending that right out to you. And we are going to be doing another giveaway very soon, so make sure you're a subscriber, and I hope you like this one.
Come to the water where you will find peace. Take a step into the river. Get down on your knees. Come to the mountain while taking in the view. You will find that life is greater than you knew when you go.
If you stuck with me through all of today's video, I just want to thank you so much for coming and spending time with me and crafting with me today. Don't forget, my videos are every Monday and Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. Don't forget to hit the like button and leave me a comment. Let me know which one of these was your favorite. And my goodness, above all things, don't forget to subscribe. I want you to become a part of our family so you can craft and chat and just have a good old time with us. And guys, I will be seeing y'all back here real soon, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Did you know that if you're on a phone or a tablet, you can click on my face right here and subscribe? You sure can. And you can also click on this next video, and when this one is over with, it'll take you right to that one. I love you guys. God bless you and your families.